Unbeaten Manchester City cruised into the round of 16 with maximum points and as top scorers. But Al Hilal came in boasting a 100% win ratio against the Citizens. One win from one game friendly, 2012, I think it was. But it still counts. So, could Inzaghi keep this extraordinary winning streak going?
And we are back in the heat of Orlando, the Camping World Stadium, for some Monday night football, tonight featuring Europe against the Middle East. It's City against Al Hilal, a place in the quarter-final at stake. Wonders, that's beautiful, slips it for 8 Nouri, and it's shuffled in! Bernardo Silva, there's no offside flag! City strike early again at the FIFA Club World Cup. This is Erling Haaland, and he tees up Savinho, and a good save by Bono. Savinho, it's so intricate. Gundogan, good save from Bono again. Malcolm still going, supported by Joao Cancelo. Edison tried to shift it, back in from Malcolm, and into the net by Marcos Leonardo! What a start to the second half! Malcolm has to be onside, he was inside his own half. Malcolm for Al Hilal! Some Brazilian magic! Bernardo Silva sent it in. Haaland with the flick, and again! Erling Haaland, 2-2! Oh, we've got a game on our hands now! Sent in by Bernardo Silva. The header almost going on target. Haaland, did that go over the goal line? No goal. Al Hilal. Ruben Neves sends it in. Edison Donovan coming! And it's Koulibaly! 3-2 to Al Hilal! Cherki looking for Foden. That's a brilliant delivery! What a finish from Phil Foden! And then Lodi. Milinkovic-Savic! What a save! It's in! There's no offside flag! They've done it again! One of the great nights for Al Hilal. One of the great nights for Saudi Arabian football.
Wow. So, the Al Hilal 100% win record against City continues as City crash out. Simone Inzaghi finally getting the better of Pep. So much to talk about when it comes to this game. And we're going to head straight to the tactics board because Amir's going to talk to us about what was a bit of a game of two halves. And Man City overall looked like they were going to overpower this Al Hilal side, but they hung in there and they found the weakness. So we've got the two lineups here. We're now going to zoom in a little bit and you're going to talk about blindside runs. It's something that you spotted pretty early on. Yep. And it happened kind of time and again for Man City in that first half. They had a lot of joy because in terms of the team and the lineup, a big talking point throughout the tournament, two players that, I mean, maybe you expect it or maybe you don't, two of the old boys, Gundogan and Silva, started this one. So why do you think they started?
Yeah, I think, well, when you look at Gundogan, you look at Bernardo Silva, Pep loves these players because they've been there so long and they're wildly intelligent. You've got bodies in there now that can kind of do the running for those two players, and they look like far better players for it. Gundogan, in particular, the timing on his runs and the ability to know where to run is massively impressive. He's chipped in with goals across his Manchester City career. So I think those are, primarily the reasons why they've been selected. If we go through this board here, what this looks to set up is an idea that we saw in that first half primarily when City got a lot of joy. They often got the ball in wide areas and they pulled apart that back five. So you can see Bernardo Silva as that right number 8, moving out and pinning one of the defenders with him. Nunes as that higher up player rather than being in with the centre-backs was almost a midfielder, and he pinned the opposition central midfielder. Kano again pinned by Reinders, and Gundogan all the way from the left-hand side moved over and attacked that space that was left open by some of those pulling and dragging movements by the Manchester City players. And it's really hard to pick up movements from that opposite side all the way into the other half space in the 18-yard box, and we saw those half space runs and intensity in Manchester City's game to try and find players in that area on both sides. Obviously,
Shall we prove it?
Yeah,
Let's
go on. We'll go through some examples.
Let's have a little look. So here you'll see the blind side in action. Go on, Amir, talk us through.
Yeah, so Ilkay Gundogan making that run is the exact demonstration of what we've just seen on the tactics board. A nice little flick, and Manchester City attacking the box against a really stubborn defence. That one all the way from the left-hand side, and you see him picking up the ball against no pressure. It's really hard for defenders to follow him out, and obviously these aren't resulting in clear goals, but it's a lot more dangerous than what we saw in later parts of the game. Another direct run and Gundogan in 1v1. We see the same sort of scheme, and the distances that get pulled apart in this defence. 22 yards between the two central defenders because they're trying to double up on a dangerous wing movement. That reverse pass to the running behind from Bernardo Silva, and then a save. But you can see the dangerous movements from the Manchester City side, particularly with Gundogan and Bernardo Silva in those areas that we really didn't see in latter parts of the game, especially in extra time.
Yeah, and Man City have been sensational in these first three games. It's been very, very comfortable for them. But even in that first half, we did see that Al Hilal, especially on that right-hand side, had enough quality in this team to work up the pitch. What did you see, George?
Yeah, I mean, it was a clear game plan, I thought, from Inzaghi and from his team to attack that side. We see Koulibaly, who's comfortable on the ball, with Milinkovic-Savic, who played at the double pivot on that side, and Malcolm especially, who was the main threat to either run in behind on long balls or just carry the ball as well. He's so quick, he's so gifted technically with his left foot playing on the other side. And we have a few clips there from that first half, but we could have picked many more. You see Koulibaly again on the ball there, that triangle, he gets to Milinkovic-Savic, who finds the space for Malcolm, and they did that time and time again. They played that side because Ait Nouri is very attacking, because Gundogan can't run as much anymore, and because Jeremy Doku doesn't really defend much. So I think Inzaghi was very clear on there's a lot of things that we can exploit on that right-hand side, on their left-hand side, and the goal comes like that as well. Great work again, into field, Cancelo overlapping with Malcolm, and then suddenly you've got a 2v1 there against a defender that doesn't really know where to go. Then they get a little bit lucky there, of course, between the save of Ederson, the block from Diaz, and then the header by Leonardo. But that right-hand side, basically, you look at Cancelo, Koulibaly, Malcolm and Milinkovic-Savic, the four there, that little square, just worked perfectly for Al Hilal in possession against the fact that City on that side certainly were just a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, and I promise I'm not getting bored and just doodling here. This big blob here is for a reason. And the point I wanted to make was that as interesting as they were and as intricate as they were in terms of creating those spaces and those blindside runs and how high they were, you can see Gvardiol and Diaz were so high. We've got Leonardo just behind him here, and we always wondered there might be their outball for them. And it's interesting when it comes to Man City, because obviously they've been knocked out here. They had 28 shots to 15, 6 big chances for Manchester City, but Al Hilal had 7 big chances from their 15 shots. I think actually it got to 17 shots at the end of it, with only 30% possession. And the goal from Malcolm, I thought, was a really good example of that. For them to get cut out the way that they did, it's because of how high that rest defence is. And so there is always that risk, isn't there? And you can see, look, one ball here. I mean, he's 10 yards away from being in the opposition's half, and he's through. Is that still something that's going to concern you, Amir, when it comes to Man City in transition? Is that something, just the sort of necessary evil that you'll have to kind of deal with?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because when you look at all of Pep's most attacking and brilliant teams in Manchester City, it was always the Klopp Liverpool sides that gave us nightmares. It was that really attacking play, the Mane and Salah runs in behind our defence that really tore us apart. When you're looking at this, we've brought Pep Lijnders in, and he's
former Liverpool assistant manager.
Former Liverpool assistant. He's somebody who's famed. He's got a book called Intensity. It's about counter-pressing and the schemes that they used at Liverpool. I think Pep Guardiola wants to pick his brains and kind of incorporate that. And I think what we saw today was trying to counter-press and being really intense. And in the first half, we kind of saw some of that quality. But if you're doing that and you're not on each player in a man-to-man fashion, then the likelihood is, if there's really strong counter-attacking threats in Malcolm, for example, a good passer in Neves or whoever the deep passer might be, then you're susceptible to conceding counter-attacks. And yeah, I think you need really strong, quick 1v1 defenders at the back and a sweeping keeper who Ederson is, but at times I think he was caught out a little bit again today. So it's certainly something that City will have to go through a really tough teething period with. because I think they do want to persevere with trying to solve those out of possession issues that they had last season by persevering with a higher press.
We've got to talk about Bono because, if you're going to beat Man City, something that's quite useful is your goalkeeper having an absolute worldie. And Al Hilal made 10 saves, well, Bono made 10 saves. Edison made 1 save. This game, of course, ended 4-3. Let's have a look at some of these saves. You're going to have to, you've got to live in this world, right? You're out. Liaz, you love talking about goalkeepers. Talk us through this one. So look, this is mad, isn't it? The ability to just keep going. Great core muscle work. I bet he's definitely got a six-pack.
Yeah. Bono has really established himself over the last few years as one of the better goalkeepers around the world. I mean, at the World Cup, obviously, he really made his name on a global stage, but even for Sevilla over the years in the Europa League, for Morocco, and now for Al Hilal, I really rate Bono extremely highly. And honestly, goalkeepers aren't my favorite talking point. But I really do admire Bono because he also does seem to do his job with a bit of personality as well, too, man. He is kind of always in the cameras. I like him a lot.
I'd sort of describe him as a bit of a magnet. It feels like the ball just kind of does make its way to him. There was a lot of substitutions that kind of changed the game. And talking about players that you highly rate.
This one I like talking about.
Liaz is normally someone who just kind of chills and watches the game, generally eating something. But as soon as Cherki came on the pitch, he's logging times. He's going, I can do it. I can get down there. I can get it done. And here you go, mate. Here's your moment. Cherki came on and made a massive difference. And Liaz, you were happy about this as well.
Yeah,
sorry, Jules, you were happy about that.
I was very happy. And I felt like it was needed because at times in the second half of the game, I felt like City were kind of going back into a lull. They were looking a bit like last season where the ball's going side to side and Al Hilal are going side to side. And then Cherki gets introduced, and all of a sudden, I think there's a bit of an X factor that this is why City brought him. He's willing to commit players. He's willing to play those vertical passes, maybe to an extent that Pep doesn't like all the time, to be honest. But this is a risk taker. This is a maverick, and I think it's something that City needed to introduce into the game much earlier. And I was actually a little disappointed that Haaland came off at the same time as Cherki came on because I think the two of them could really kind of develop a nice chemistry because Haaland, he needs those balls in behind, and it almost feels like at times only Cherki's willing to play it. And right here, I think this is really where he just shows his quality. Because Foden makes that run, and Cherki, a la Kevin De Bruyne, a la Messi, to be honest with you, finds him absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. People will talk about Foden's finish. It's brilliant. Cherki puts on a golden platter. That's wonderful. And I'd like to see it a whole lot more for City because they're a brilliant team across the board. But at times, I do feel like they are missing a player that's just willing to play that killer pass. And with Cherki, that's never a doubt.
Yeah. And look, so what's gone wrong here for Pep and for Manchester City? Because, they have got an embarrassment of riches. This is an enormous shock for them to go out of the competition.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's the substitutions? Was it the shape? What was it for you?
I think there's still issues from last season, as we just mentioned, in transitions especially, that maybe we didn't see so much in the group stage because, let's be honest, it was a group stage that we expected them to win, and they did, and they had 3 wins in 3.
Even against Juventus, we still conceded.
Even against Juventus, even 5-2, they still conceded a few of those moments. And Al Hilal are a very good team. I think some of the substitutions, maybe from Pep Guardiola, maybe Cherki could have come on earlier. Maybe some of the, taking off Erling Haaland when he did for Marmoush was a bit hard to understand when there was a lot of crosses coming into the box, for example.
Yeah, so it does feel like the substitutions, the Haaland call
I will defend it a little bit because I think if I'm trying to rationalise what Pep Guardiola is trying to do in that situation, one, Haaland's played a long game in tough conditions. But secondarily, I think what we saw from that defensive line is it was so hard to break down, and Haaland had basically no space in there anyway, 2 or 3 bodies around him at all times. Cherki, with that brilliant quality, can still find a player in there, but I think the idea with Marmoush is he kept making runs in behind, and that would open space in front of the defence for the midfielders to try and take advantage of. So I can understand that decision a little bit. For me, perhaps the change to that safer 3-2-5 shape rather than that more riskier 2-3-5 shape meant that City passed it in that kind of flank to flank manner that wasn't as effective, in my opinion.
I thought it was very easy for Al Hilal to defend them at times in the second half. Seriously, it just felt like a bit like last season. And I think that's where Pep's trying to get away. But it's just Al Hilal shifting side to side and City shifting side to side with them. But I think Jules touches on it. The transition aspect is something City have to massively... Because it feels like a game of lottery with them at all times. Yes, they can kill you at any given moment. But every single time it felt like Al Hilal had that out ball, all of a sudden it looks like a 4v3 opportunity, a 3v3 opportunity. And we looked at some of the chances that Al Hilal created. There were plenty of opportunities as well, too, where Al Hilal were just a pass away or the right decision away. And that's got to be concerning if you're Guardiola.
Yeah, it's true, because, our analysis was going to be from that first half. They got into all right positions, but that end product was disappointing. I think overall it's probably keep calm and carry on. We've been eulogising about how many options they've got. So... But, you can't get around it, can you? Huge shock.
Massive.
Amir.
Big failure.
Amir. Huge shock.
I
You'll
think
be
my
okay.
earpiece
You'll be
isn't
okay.
working, actually.
Okay,
I'm happy.
we're going to have to move on from Man City. They are out. They're gone now. So.